Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today is Riley Blake Day here at Sew in Common, specifically the Riley Blake Block Challenge for 2024. We do this once every week on Thursday afternoon, and today we are specifically working on block number 6. Hi, everybody. I'm Diana. I'm the owner and designer and creator of the Build A Quilt system here at Sew in Common. And I thought before we got started with block number 6 that we would do a little review of our blocks and see how everybody's doing. So let's start with block number 1. This was from Lori Holt. It was called Vintage Delight. It was what we consider a 3-part modified half square triangle with some rectangles and a square. This block is also known as a peony block, a rosebud block, a tulip block. But how's everybody doing with that? Now, I think that I'm right in saying that a lot of you are taking part in the Build a Quilt version of the challenge because the patterns are flying off the website. And in case you don't know, if you're new to us, all these patterns for the Riley Blake Block Challenge in the Build a Quilt system, which is how we do our patchwork in the hoop of our embroidery machine, are all free. The challenge is free from Riley Blake, so I've just transcribed those patterns, I've digitized them and created them into the Build a Quilt format for you all. So here is block number 2, Sparkle and Shine. Gosh, hang on, let me grab my folder here. So the first one was Vintage Delight by Lori Holt, Sparkle and Shine by Beverly McCullough. That was week number 2. I really love the lime in this one. Very pretty colors in all of these. Block number 3 is Dalesford by Amy Smart. This one I really love. She chose some really bright, beautiful colors, and I just think they're gorgeous. I love how this one turned out. Love that pinwheel inside the 8-pointed star. Great, great block. And then week number 4 was The Framed Star by Fran Gullick. So this one was interesting because I was able to figure out a way for us to get rid of 4 seams because we were able to do this with our modified flying geese unit instead of the 2 modified half square triangles. Now, I had already made mine with the modifieds, but then I went back and realized if we create the modified flying geese unit, that's going to save you some time and trouble in the long run. And so yours will, let's do it on the color that it matches. Yours will have those in there. And I thought that turned out great. So that was cool. I was inspired to create a whole new segment block for us just based on this block alone. Framed Star by Fran Gullick. And then last week we did the Dazzle block by Christy Lee. And this one has so much color in it. I really love it. Actually, I think it goes in this direction, I think. Or maybe this direction. Can't quite remember. Let's see. It is, yes, it goes in this direction. This is the one. And I just love how this one is with all the color. But like I said last week, I think I probably would have lessened the amount of color. And you know me, I love color so much. There's never enough. But it made seeing the pattern a little difficult for me. But I'm sure once we get this into the actual quilt, it's going to look amazing. And I'm starting to wonder now what this quilt is going to look like because we have several star blocks. Next week, we get back into another star block. This week is not a star block, week 6, but we've got another star block coming. And I tell you at the end of the layout demo that comes at the end today, that I was really thinking and pondering about the center section of this block because it's something we haven't done before. And I figured out how I'm going to digitize it for us. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well after we talk about this week's actual block. But then we have these blocks like the Sparkle and Shine and the Dazzle. Yes, my Sparkle and Shine is bigger only because I when I first created it, I digitized it in the wrong size. So I had to go back and digitize it correctly for all of you guys in the right size. All of these blocks are 10 by 10s when they finish up. So great size for quilt blocks. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. Are we going to get like a sampler look? Are they blending these in ways that we can't see yet? I think it's going to be really fun to find out what they're going to do. Alrighty, let's move on to this week's block, which is called Bloom Where You Are Planted. Perfect name for a spring block, isn't it? Bloom Where You Are Planted. And the author of this week's block is Jennifer Long. And so again, I don't know Jennifer Long, but she has to be a Riley Blake designer, because these are Riley Blake designers that are doing these blocks for the challenge. So I will be looking her up and finding out more about her. You guys can do that too. Go on the Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever your internet server and all is, and check that out. Find out more about these particular designers, and then you might find other things of theirs that you really love. So that's always a good thing. So Bloom Where You Are Planted. This was the sheet from Riley Blake. Now, I told you guys last week I'm running out of printer ink, and I really am, because this printed out really badly. But this is your Build a Quilt pattern, and I will tell you where to get that here in a little bit. But here's the block right here. Didn't it turn out pretty? I love it. Now I'll tell you later why this pink and this pink are different, and I give you some suggestions for that. But basically it's different because, once again, I made a bit of a mistake when I digitized this. When I originally digitized this, because the leaves are 2 pieces and these petals are 2 pieces, I accidentally did my math wrong, and I made them all smaller. So I ended up with a 7-inch block, and holy smoke, was that going to end up being fiddly. And then last night when I measured, I thought, oh my gosh, I've done it wrong. I had to go back through and redigitize everything and recreate my whole block last night. So I was up really late last night trying to get this finished for us today, but it turned out great. Unfortunately, I ran out of my light pink and I used this medium pink, but I'll tell you why that works. When you watch the demo sections, you'll find out my reasoning behind that and why that works. But I think the block turned out beautifully, and it is a gorgeous block for the springtime. So there is the block on the Riley Blake piece of paper, and our block, see, it looks just the same. I love the leaves that she did them in 2 colors of green. So it gives you that, you know, when things first start to bloom in the spring, they're a little bit light and they start to morph into a more medium or darker green. I love how she created those that way. That's awesome. So this block, like I said, the leaves are made in 2 pieces. So all of our other blocks, which are blocks with flippy corners. So did that not turn out great? Because our new block for March, the St. George's Cross, is all about the flippy block. Our block and our pattern for Wednesday workshop, the Lucky Charm that we're working on, is also about flippy corners. So in this block, we're also talking about flippy corners again. The petals are made of flippy corners, and so are the leaves. But the leaves, instead of being created on a square, they're created on a triangle with flippy corners. So that's something completely new. So I love that it just was happenstance that it turned out to be that way this week. But I think it's great to see another way that we can use the idea of a flippy corner. Because like I've said, flippy corners do one thing for us really, really well. They help us shape our pattern. So this looks very curvy, like a flower would, but there's not a single curve in it. And that's because the flippy corner has helped to shape it and give it that curved look. So love that. Absolutely love it. Alrighty, so the center is real easy. It's just a square, but you're going to be making 8 of your petal blocks, and you're going to be making 4 light green or lime colored leaf sections and 4 darker leaf green sections. All of that is in the demo. When we're done here, there are 3 demo pieces. The demo for the petals, the demo for the leaves, and then the demo that is the layout and how you should sew this together. Because this, although you do end up with 3 rows eventually, you need to kind of sew some segment pieces together before you form your rows. And I walk you all through that in the demo section. So all of that will come at the end. Now, these are the colors. These are not the Riley Blake fabrics. As you know, I wasn't able to get that fabric, but these are the same colors. Yours will probably end up having the light pink center. Mine is still kind of a lightish pink, but your center will look the same as these little flippy corners, how that goes to make your center. I just thought it turned out beautiful. I really think this is a lovely block. But again, 10-inch finished, white background. I know a lot of us don't do white backgrounds. I don't tend to do a lot of white backgrounds, but because that's the way Riley Blake is creating these blocks for the challenge, I want you to see them that way. So that's why I'm doing it. You probably won't see too many all white background quilts from me, except I do like white background quilts for the summer. That gives it that fresh look, right? Don't you think so? Yeah, I think so too. So this block is not difficult at all, but you are learning to work with these triangles and flippy corners. This leaf looks like it's a bit fiddly to put together, but if you use the pin method of putting your corners together the way I've shown you in the past, you're not going to have a problem with them at all. It's just the same as any other piece. You're just working with a triangle rather than a square or with a rectangle, okay? So bloom where you are planted. Now, I think personally, this block done in different colors for different color flowers would make a gorgeous quilt. And I am just half tempted to make one for a friend in different colors, like all different colors, like you would see a field of wildflowers. Wouldn't that be pretty? All of these blocks are beautiful and could be made, you know, a couple of them together in a quilt, one of them. This one by Lori Holt, that would be a beautiful one where you do each one of your Vintage Delight squares in different fabrics. I think they could all be done individually and look beautiful, but this bloom where you are planted, if you have someone who really loves flowers, I think they would love this one. Alrighty, so to get your free Build a Quilt pattern set with all of your digital files and everything that you need, you know that you just need to go over to the website, sewincommon.com, and you can download that, and it will have, let me just pull mine out of my piece of plastic here. Hang on. There. All right, so you get your main page, obviously. You get general information. You get a general supply sheet, and then you get your cut sheet, which is going to show you your fabric colors, what they are, and that's what you're going to cut. For all of them, you get that page just has the one square. The one square is the simplest one, obviously, to do. And then you get a layout to show how it gets laid out. And then I give you the final picture in large form, Bloom Where You Were Planted by Jennifer Long. And then the final, all the administrative stuff page, which goes on all of them. So that's what you get, plus you get your digital files. All of these files are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. The rectangle or the triangles are 2.5 inches on a side. So that when they're together, these create a 2.5-inch finished block, okay? Because this is 10, so these two together in the center are 5, and the 2 on the end add up to 10. So you should have seen the one that I made, though. It was crazy. It was like 1.67 inches. It was some weird amount. But anyway, you can grab this packet over at the website right now. For next week, so this is what I thought, you know, this week, are we caught up? No, I think we have another one. Hang on. 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay, yes. So this week's block block number 7. I'm going to make myself a little note on it right now, or I'm going to end up forgetting what week that is. There we go. Is called Star-Crossed. So it's another 8-pointed star block. It looks like that. Okay. So the star is going to be the easy part. We've made those. You're a pro at those now, right? You can just sit down and whip out your star blocks. Those of you that have been doing Build a Quilt for a while. If you're brand new, stars are super simple to do. We did them all last year. So they're super to do. We've already been doing them here in the block challenge. So you're already getting used to that. The interesting part about this block is this centerpiece right there. And I had to do some heavy duty thinking about this because I wasn't sure how I was going to digitize it, but I figured it out now. So, this weekend, I will be working on digitizing this for us. Now, next Tuesday, pattern number 8 will come out. Let me see what that's called. On 28th, it's by Jill Finley. Oh, we know Jill Finley. Now, Jill Finley is someone I do know. I love Jill's stuff. So her block is number 8 next week. So this is what I'm going to do. We will definitely be doing this block, and I am going to try my hardest to get the week 8 block done, so then we're caught up. The video part, no, if I do it, I'll do the whole thing, I hope. I'm just going to do my best to get them both done for you, okay? Next week, it shouldn't be as difficult as this week was because I should be able to use my hands more. The swelling has now gone down in them. We're going to get a scan to see what's going on with some bumps that showed up. They're not broke, but they're wondering if something is not quite where it should be. So we're going to check that out. But I should be released to go back to full usage on my hand. So thank you all so much for your patience this week, especially while I've been healing from that fall I took last week. I still have some sore spots, but I'm much better than I was. But that's next week for sure, is Star-Crossed. Now, we've done a Star-Crossed block here before, so this will be a different Star-Crossed block. But I think this one, I think this one is going to turn out easy. This star has, again, got a lot of fabric in it, a lot of the colors of fabric in it. I think it's got almost all the different colors in it this week, or next week. So that should be fun. All right, everybody, go ahead and go over to the website once more to get your free pattern set. Check out, of course, our Build a Quilt offerings as well. I'd love to see your blocks over on Facebook at Sew Uncommon. Please download them there. If you need to contact me, you can do that at support@sewuncommon.com. I love it when you ask your questions here on this video, only because then I can answer them for everybody. Okay, so if you're having difficulty with something for the block itself, please put those comments here. Makes it much easier for me to answer them, and then I'm not answering 12 emails or something that all are asking me the same thing. So you'll know to look here. But if it's a private question or something you need to get a hold of me about another pattern or something different, of course, support@sewuncommon.com. Thank you all so much for joining me this week for our Riley Blake Challenge, block number 6. Bloom where you are planted. I hope you all do that this week, bloom where you are planted. If you haven't already, I hope also that you will right now click the button to subscribe to our channel and set your notification bell, because we'd love to have you as part of the Sew Uncommon family. And until next time, while you're blooming, don't forget to sew life beautiful. Bye, everybody. Okay, everybody, this demonstration is all about the petal block. And really, this petal block is very, very similar. In fact, it's exactly the same as the flippy corner block that we are doing in this month's block of the month, the St. George Cross. The only difference is that with these flippy corners, they're much smaller. So you're getting a bigger section in here of the color that will make up the petal of the flower in this bloom where you are planted block. So that's what we're going to be making here. Now I'm using my 6x6 hoop, but you could do this also with your 7x7. I'm getting two stitch outs in one hooping, so that's saving me a little bit on my hoopings. And all I did was when I loaded my pattern, I pushed it all the way to the top. And then when I was ready for my second one to begin, I've pushed it all the way to the bottom. And I did trim along here a little bit so that I would at least have a good 1/4 inch for trimming out at the end, a little more than a 1/4 inch there. I just wanted to make sure that I had some space here, and I do have plenty. Normally I would tell you to put it in the opposite corners, but you can really stack them like this. And here's the pro tip for you. When you stack them, you can line the 1/4 inch line up on your lines, on these long lines, and it'll give you less, you have to make less cuts for cutting everything out of the hoop. So that's nice to do. That's a little bit of a time saver. So as you can see, I've already stitched out the boundary box and then the placement box, which was machine step 2 for the petal flower. I'm just going to add a little bit of my glue stick right there. Let me put this down so you can see better. There we are. And I am going to lay this down. Now I'm going to just, I could lay it more like this, but I'm going to lay it so it's kind of touching or a little bit above the other fabric. That way I know I'll have plenty for cutting out my 1/4 inch. Now this block does take just a wee bit of trimming, which you're going to see, see here in a moment when this step finishes stitching, just like we did with the St. George's Cross block, which is our block of the month. And I was really glad that we ended up doing this block 6, Bloom Where You Are Planted, this week in the Riley Blake Challenge, because we're talking about this whole idea of flippy corners. So it's another great way to practice. Now, here's where we're going to do the trimming. So you're going to need your scissors. You've got one corner here, one corner here. So you're going to do a little trimming there. On this small piece right here, you don't need to save that. That can go in the bin. However, on your other side, you're going to have a little extra fabric. And so when you cut it, and you'll cut roughly at a 1/4 inch, you're going to take, that's a bigger section. And I'm keeping a pile of those because those can work for other projects. Now, all I need to do is place a little bit of my glue stick right there. And I'm going to start out with my first flippy corner, which is this white triangle. And yes, I've given you plenty of fabric because these pieces for the triangles end up being quite small. You can see them here. The actual triangle piece is quite small. So I'm giving you a bigger piece of fabric so that it's not as fiddly when you're working with it. The one thing that always puts me off working with smaller segments and smaller blocks and squares is that when the fabric gets really little, it gets fiddly to work with. And that's when I put everything away and walk away from a project. So I'm just trying to make this a little easier for you to work with. You'll trim all that excess off at the end. Now we're down here for our second flippy corner. And this one is the light pink. So your white goes in the upper and your light pink goes in the lower. Now your light pink should match the center light pink square. Mine, as you can see when I hold these up, is this square is a little bit darker because I ran out of this pink fabric because I originally digitized the pattern in a smaller size and it was too small and I ended up using up all of that fabric. So I chose one that was fairly close. It'll still work. The idea will still be there, so I'm not worried about that. But these fabrics, these pinks, are supposed to be the same. But I just, hang on, I think I just unthreaded my needle. Give me just a sec. Okay, now here we go, and we'll stitch this down. Now, with these flippy corner blocks, we do need to do a little tape before we do the guideline blocks because we have a flippy corner coming this way at us. We can hit that. So since we have enough fabric, we don't need to place the tape on the line. We can place it right here just to hold that fabric down. That's my pro tip for you as well, is don't lay the tape on the line if you don't have to. And that way you can keep reusing your pieces of tape. Like I've been using these 2 pieces of tape for all 8 of my petal blocks. So that way I don't have to rip it off and try to rip it out of my seam, my stitch seam. Love that. Now you'll see this in more detail when we do the layout, but the petals, you're going to be making 4, what I call 4 double petals. Let's just move this down a little bit. That's 2 of these petal blocks that come together, and they'll be sewn together. There'll be one in the north, south, east, and west corners, and then this larger block here is going to end up being in the middle. Now, these colors on yours will match, but on mine, this is lighter. It's just, you know how when you look into the center of a flower, the color is a little bit different. It goes from like light to dark or dark to light. So that's kind of the effect I will get. But you're going to make 4 sets of these, but I'll talk more about that when we do the layout demo for you in a bit. So here are the 2 that are done. Now I have all 8 done, and I will move on to doing the leaf demonstration for you in the next video clip. Okay, we're back. This demo is going to be for the leaves of the bloom where you are planted. There is a right hand leaf and a left hand leaf, and you'll see them in the layout how they come together. I have right now, I'm working on my 4 right hand leaves. I just rotated these so I could put them on the other side because I'm doing 4 in a hooping. If you're using a 5x7 hoop, you should at least be able to get 2 in a hoop. You might be able to get 3 in a hoop. But here we have my triangle because these leaves are put together in 2 halves, and the halves are based on triangles rather than squares. And I've also done my placement stitch out right there. So I'm going to add my little bit of glue. This is just like all the other flippy blocks that we're doing. Now in your pattern, you will see that this time we're working with triangles for everything. And I just laid this out so I have plenty going all the way around. It's going to help me when I go to do my trimming, because this one does have a little bit of an odd trim, as does the next one. So this is the right hand side one, and you're seeing it being done now. Okay, so let's bring my hoop back out, and you can see right here, it's kind of this odd, funny shape because you have a corner here, so you're actually going to need to cut here and then cut here. So let's go ahead and trim. Yep, there's my corner. I'm going to do that trim right there, and then I'm going to just slide this around and trim on my other side. And these triangles are really a bit small, so you can pitch those if you want to. Now, the first corner that gets done is right here in the, what we would say, upper left. I'm going to put my little bit of glue stick there. And I'm going to take one of my triangles. And with these, I'm just laying them just like that in each way with the long side against the edge of the fabric. Because again, these flippy corners are so tiny, and I've given you plenty of fabric. So probably just about any way you laid it down, when you flip it, you'll have plenty of fabric. But if you do it this way, you're going to have plenty for trimming and out of your stabilizer and the whole bit. The whole kit and caboodle. Alrighty, let's just flip that. And we'll stitch that down. So the right-hand leaf is done with this darker green and the white corners. And then when we get to the left-hand leaves, those are done with the lime green. So I think this darker green they call emerald, and with the lighter green they call that lime. So now I'm placing my second corner and stitching that. And yes, we will tape for the final guideline stitch. Okay, I'm going to flip that, and now we will stitch. Great. Now I'm going to remove the hoop from my machine so I can place my tape. Just easier to do it on this flat surface. So I know I need tape right here to hold that piece. And again, I'm not taping on my line. That way I'm just reusing my tape, and I need to tape here. I don't need to tape here because it's going to be going in that clockwise direction. But being able to reuse that tape really saves you on tape. For sure. And then you're not cutting through it with your seam or with your rotary cutter. You're not getting it any kind of stickum at all on your needle, which this tape doesn't seem to really bother the needle, but all that stuff in the end can be helpful, right? So I'm just going to peel off my tape. That way I can reuse it on my next block, which is going to be my left side block. So those are my 4 right side blocks. I'll just take those out and trim them out, and then we'll do our left side blocks. Okay, here we are. We're back. We're going to be doing the left side leaf, and the left side leaf is the lime color. And right now I'm stitching out my machine step 1 directly on the stabilizer, and machine step 2 will also be directly on the stabilizer. That's pretty much a given for most of these flippy cornered blocks. So now we'll do machine step 2. Because the first one is boundary and the second one is placement for our first piece of fabric, which in this case is going to be this fabric for me. That's going to be my lime colored fabric. And again, I'm still just using my white flippy corners, as that's what the pattern calls for. Now, if you've decided to go a little rogue and do your own thing, I say you go for it. It is your quilt. And so if you're doing different colored flippy corners and different color fabrics, I think you're going to end up with a really beautiful quilt. And I won't fault you for that at all. But so that you all see exactly what Riley Blake color-wise wants us to look like, I'm trying to be good. Because if this were me, I would probably be doing all kinds of different fabrics as well. Just for the fun of it, right? All right, now we're going to remove this. I'm only doing the one in the hoop this time, so it might be a little bit easier for you to see. So there is my one corner right there. So I am going to snip that. And then my other corner is right here. So I'm going to trim right there. There we go. And on this one, the first corner that gets laid down is this upper one. And I'll go ahead and lay. So I'm placing my glue stick right when I'm laying my fabric down. It's just, it makes it a little easier, a little more efficient, I think, to do it that way. That's another pro tip for you, is you'll hear me say. And so whenever you hear pro tip, you know that's something you should be watching for, or something you should write down for future use. because it'll either help you be more efficient or it'll give you a better product in the end. For whatever reason, it's something I think is important for you to take a look at. All right, so here's my second corner. I'm going to lay my little bit of fabric glue right there. I'm going to lay down my piece of fabric. And we'll stitch that down and then flip it. And then all we have to do is the guideline box. And we're done. So these really go quickly. These flippy cornered leaf pieces stitch in a minute. And so they stitch out really quickly. And so if you have a hoop that's big enough that, like I said, with a 5x7, you'll be able to get at least 2, if not 3, in a hooping. And with my 6x6, as I did with my green ones, I was able to get all 4 in one hooping with some strategic placement. But I just wanted to show you one of these being done without any special adjustment or anything. So I know I'm going to need to put my tape there. And I am going to need to put my tape there. And that really doesn't need tape, but I just wanted to flatten that seam out a little bit. All righty. Now we're going to stitch out that guideline box, and we'll be done with our left-handed leaf. And, oh gosh, I just ran out of my bobbin thread. All right, so you guys get to see me You guys get to see me change my bobbin out. It'll only take a second. Just a wee little second. Oh, I'm caught on something because this bobbin started to unwound. There we go. I always take off. When I first started machine embroidering, a friend of mine said, on your pre-wound bobbins, always back off 15 yards of your thing. I thought, 15 yards? Holy moly. So what I do is I just do this. I just kind of spread my hands apart like 10 times or so. I don't know. Maybe they used to be really overfilled or something. I'm not sure, but I thought 15 yards, that's a little excessive. But I do always take just a little bit off of the beginning of my bobbin. Do you guys do that? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. Am I crazy? Do you do that exact same thing? Do you do more or less? That way, if you share, then we'll all get to hear what everybody does and figure out what's best for us. Try new things, right? That's what we like to do. Alrighty, now we're just going to finish this guideline box, and we're done with the left side leaf. And you'll see them cut out and all over on the layout table when we do that demo, which is next. Okay, the layout is next. Okay, now I'm just going to take this out. I will remove my tape. Now, see, that tape has gotten a little bit of frays on it. When it starts to do that, that's when I pitch it. But that got me through, like, gosh, 4. It got me through a couple petals, 2 petals and 5 leaves. So that was pretty good. And then I'll just take it out, and then I can take it over and I can cut it out. But that is my left side leaf, and you'll see how those come together. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate for you, let me find it, the pink square that goes in the middle, because it's just the square. You stitch out your first line on the stabilizer, place your fabric, stitch out your second line, and that's it. So we're not going to do that as a demo, but the leaves and the petals I wanted you to see. All right, let's go on over to the layout. Okay, everybody, here we are doing the layout of the Bloom Where You're Planted block. This is block 6 in the Riley Blake Challenge. And I wanted to share with you my thoughts on how I think you should go about piecing this together. This block is interesting because everything seems to work out in pairs, and then there's the center block that everything centers around or gathers around. So what I would recommend is that you you sew all your leaf sections together. So your leaf blocks
are two triangles. They only go together in one way, so you can't mess that up. And when you lay them out, you will always lay them out with the double white corners that you see here in the outer corner, because it's really creating the background of this block, of this blossom. And then with your petals, there's two that come together in the pole positions, north, south, east, and west. And so after you sew your leaves together, then I would sew my petals together. After that, then I would sew these two sets of petals to my center, and then these together as a unit, and these together as a unit. And then I would sew these units together. I know it doesn't come as an actual square because of the seam allowances, but you get the idea. And that's how I would do it. So sew all your pieces together that go together, your leaves, your petals, then sew petals to center, sew your top row and your bottom row together, and then sew your rows. This will be a row, and then you'll have the 3 rows, how we kind of typically do our piecing, and then put those together. Now you will notice, I think I've already talked about this, my 2 pinks are different here because I ran out of my light pink fabric because I made a huge mistake in the original digitizing of this block. But when you look at it, when it comes together, I kind of like this idea, because when you look into a flower, the center isn't just one color. It kind of is lights and darks, or lights becoming dark, or darks becoming light. And I feel like with the petal color and then this light pink and this medium pink, you're getting that gradation of color, kind of like you would in an actual flower. So if you are out of a certain color pink that you wanted to use, choose something else that would go with. Now, what I could recommend for you to do here is also put in a print. Let me grab one real quick. So I have this pink print with the butterflies. That could look very pretty in there as well. So you might want to think about that. I've actually chosen solids for the blossom. However, in my leaves, these are both small prints. One is a Lori Holtby cross stitch, and then this other lighter limey green one. I'm not quite sure where that one came from. It was just a half fat quarter that I had in the stash. But you could do the leaves in solids if you want. These are just the colors that I thought represented the Riley Blake fabric colors the best. So that's how I would go about laying out the block and sewing it together. And then when you're done, you'll have 6 blocks done. Next week's block, we are back into the 8-point star arena from what I could see. However, the center of that block is like nothing we've done yet. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I've been thinking about it for a couple of days now, how I'm going to get to digitize that. The 8-point star part is easy. They're actually using chunky flying geese in the pole positions and HSTs on the corner, so that'll look cute. But that center part, I'm having to think about it. It can be done, obviously. It's just a little curious for me at the moment. So we'll see that next week. Next Tuesday, they will put out block number 8. If I can, no, I think we're just going to end up being 1 week behind each week. It's really almost impossible for me to get 2 blocks like that done in the week, plus our others. But if I can, I will. I'll give it the old college try. Alrighty, we've got a lot coming up next week, but we'll see. All right, anyway, that would be for next week, but this is our bloom where you are planted block. Now go out and create some beautiful blocks today. And of course, as always, sew life beautiful, everybody.